Hello, and welcome to another impromptu stream. I wanted to finish my practice session today with scales, and I've been thinking a lot about scales and different ways that you can play them and different resources. And so I thought that it might be a nice thing to do for the stream. So I try to play all my scales by ear, and we're going to do that most of the time, but I do want to show some resources off as well that that might be helpful if you're not sure about scales, or you just need a place to look at them. But we'll sort of discuss that because I don't think you should look at them. Not much more than just the sort of basic format of it, right? So I have the chat up. If you happen to come on and just notice that I'm streaming, since I didn't have this planned at all, feel free to comment or ask questions as always. And yeah, if you're seeing this later, then feel free to email me some questions or comments, and I'll try to address them in the next stream, which is 2 days from now. Okay, so let's play some scales. I'm just going to use regular B-flat trumpet, and that's because a lot of our technique tends to come from the B-flat, just because we play it the most, but also it's the most familiar. And if I'm thinking about scales and other things, I don't want to be thinking about, how bad my lip feels or whatever. And it's also the lowest trumpet that we tend to actually have. I thought about it. I was going to play my A trumpet, the French bass in an A, because I need to work on that. But then I thought, no, that's going to be confusing if I do that on camera. The fingerings are all going to look wrong to somebody playing B flat or whatever. So anyway, so that's what we're going to start with. Is just, we could pick any scale. Yesterday I did D, so today let's do E flat major, right? So what are the ways you can play a scale? Well, up, and down, of course, right? That's only one octave. I could do it further, but I can also do different intervals, right? And I promise I haven't practiced this beforehand or anything like that. I'm just going through my authentic sort of, I need to work on this, and I'm not looking at anything. I don't have any way to show you this, I guess, but I'm just looking at a sheet that says ways to play scales that I wrote out, and it says up, down, and now it says in thirds. So I could do that. And I should be muting myself when I play trumpet. Sorry about that. I'll turn the trumpet up, and then I'll try to remember to mute. We'll move these mics momentarily. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. So that's thirds. We can do fourths, right? Just a little articulation in there. And of course we can do fifths. These are going to get harder for me, so I'm apologize in advance if I make mistakes, but I'm doing this all by ear for a reason, and I'll talk about it in a second. So you can see I had to go a little slower there to really think about what that fifth sounds like and play it. Now I can do sixths and sevenths. Let's do those. Oop. So now that one is clearly harder for me up than it is down. And you could argue that I might be playing different intervals on the way down instead, right? The way we play thirds, up and down, you know, they're the same diatonically inverted. In other words, when I play up to A, or sorry, if I'm playing an E flat, if I play E flat up to G, then when I'm coming back down and I'm doing the downward intervals, I'm going to play G down to E flat, right? That's the same. And when we do the fourths, it would be easy to, because a fourth inverted is a fifth. So I'll just sort of turn this down a little bit so that I can talk and play. Right? The inversion should also be a fourth, if that makes sense, because I'm trying to phrase this the way that in other words, I want to play different notes on the way down, because then I'm playing those same pure intervals instead of the same notes on the way down, because I've already practiced that on the way up. So what would that mean? Well, for fourths, right, I could do. Let's see. See what I mean? If I played the same notes, then it would just be the same thing I played, which is actually a scale. It's a different diaton. It's a G Phrygian scale in thirds on the way down. Then, right? So whichever you want is fine, right? Because if you're doing it by ear. I try to do it the same intervals both ways. So now we've done thirds, fourths, fifths, and sixths, and sevenths. And now what we can start to do is, the reason I talked about inversions for so long, of the intervals, is because now we're going to do triads. We're going to do all the diatonic triads of E flat major. So, and you have to pick a scale. I mean, if your range isn't sort of complete yet, right? You can't play every scale 2 octaves. Then it's really going to be difficult to play the chords that belong to these notes all the way up to the top notes, because you're at least going to play a fifth. And when we do diatonic 7 chords, well, then that's going to be basically 2 octaves, right? It's going to be a seventh above the single octave scale. So I'm just kind of talking myself into a little bit of rest here. This overall won't be a long stream because I'm only going to do the one key. Hi, Robbie. But so okay, so the diatonic triads, right? What are those? If you're not following me on all the theory parts, right? The best thing you can do is get a normal scale sheet that just has the scale written out ascending, and that's it, right? That's the best thing you can look at, because then you're not really looking. You can skip with your eyes over notes, and that's what thirds are, right? You skip one, play the next, skip one, play the next. Those are thirds. And what I'm doing in playing thirds is I'm going skip one, play that one, then down to the one I skipped, and then skip one over the one I just played, right? So that's what we're doing. And then fourths is doing that twice, and then skipping back down to the first one we skipped, and so on and so forth, right? And fifths and sixths. So you can figure that out just based on what I've already played. And you can do all those. You can also sit down and write them out if you want, but again, then you're not really playing them by ear. So it's okay to do it to make sure you have the notes right, but ultimately you want to do these things by listening for the interval. So maybe in that case you could play note by note, right? Let's say sixths. And then you can think, okay, if I know that first one, then the next note is F, right? And the note I just played was C, so a note above that is D. Right? So now I know those two notes. Then the next one is going to be G, and oh, guess what? E flat, right? Because I'm in the key of E flat. And this is where it gets a little tricky. You got to remember that A flat is in the key signature, right? And then a note above E flat. See what I mean? So you can work out your way around all these different intervallic relationships. But okay, so now on to diatonic triads. So I'll mute myself for this one, turn it back up. But we're going to play all of the triads that are diatonic, which means in the key, to E flat major. Okay, here we go. So there's the upward version. Now on the downward version, we have two different choices. We can do the same chords. Now they're going to be in first inversion, right? So I'll just, I've done this long enough, I can just leave it. Right? That's the same exact chords. So in other words, and you could even do it that way if you wanted. You could go up and down and then to the next one. Same chords, right? Or I can do the same interval, kind of like I was talking about before. So in other words, what would if I played E flat, what would that be if it was the top of a chord in tertian stack instead of the bottom? So in other words, the fifth of a triad. So if I want to do it that way, then, and this is going to come in when we play 7 chords especially, because when something is the root, it changes all 3 other notes. If something is instead the 7th, it changes the other 3 notes, right? So anyway. See what I mean? Those are different triads because I'm playing the same intervals away from the baseline note from the scale instead of the same chord that I played on the way up. That's what I'm talking about. So which one should you do? Both of them. Both of them are equally important, I think, depending on what you're trying to learn. If you're only going to do if you're trying to sort of work out what the scales sound like, it might be better to do the inverted chords on the way back down, because those belong to the root notes, right? But you're just going to get the same things but in different places if you do the other ones. So I think they're both important. Now, there's another way to do triads though, and that is basically the hard way. So let's choose, I don't know if I can do all the different ones. So I'm going to choose E flat major scale for the bass notes, but I'm going to choose major triads only. So in other words, these are not in the key. These are all major triads. So here we go. I'll try my best. I apologize to the one person watching that this may not be very fun to listen to. Whew, that one was rough because you really got to think on the way down if you're going to do. Now, like I said before, I could have done the same triads on the way back down as I did on the way up, but that's no fun. It's better to try to think your way through, okay, if this is the 5th of the chord, then I need to go down a minor third every time and so that I can play a major triad, right? You could also fix the interval away from the notes, so you'd be playing minor triads on the way down and major triads on the way up. That would be a different way to do it, right? Anyway, those are fixed triads, right? So we're going to play the same triads on the way up and perhaps on the way down as well. Okay, so now we've got a new way to play a scale, and that's not really in a key anymore, right? Because every one of those is a major chord, but that can be really useful in terms of when you want to play out in a jazz context, right? What we call out is like out of the key. It can be really helpful to have the major triads of the scale that of the key that you're in, right? Just at your fingertips and get those sounds in your head, and that becomes like, oh, I hear this around this key, right? So that's really important. All right, let's do the diatonic back to in the key of E flat major, diatonic 7 chords. So. Now, which one do we do downwards? Well, I'm going to do, it's hard for me not to do, the hardest thing for me to do is the interval structure sort of reversed, as we were saying, right? The easiest thing is to play that as the root again, right? So that it's the same chord again, right? I'm going to try my best to just do a stack away from the top notes in the key of thirds. So here we go. So there we go. Now we've gotten the diatonic 7 chords out of the way. Now, can we play fixed 7 chords? I think we can. Let's try dominant 7th. So in other words, it's going to be a major triad with a minor 7th, right? A whole step away from the repeated root. We're gonna try diatonic 7 chords, fixed 7 chords that are all dominant 7th chords all the way up. Here goes nothing. Now we have to figure out what we're going to do on the way down. Yeah, let's try where the note that I'm playing is the dominant 7th. This will be really hard for me. So the first one, for instance, will be an F dominant 7th chord, and so on. So I'll do my best. Yeah, that one's hard. Very, very difficult. But again, getting your ear to hear a fixed interval set and then playing that in the bass notes of a key has some real value. And that would be, for instance, those are all the diatonic 7 chords in any kind of jazz chart that is in the key of E flat, right? Because we generally change things around to 7s, and not as much, not every chord, right? But a lot of times we will, so that they can function as secondary dominants, basically, or just they sound hipper with a flat 7 sometimes. We like that. So anyway, we could also do this on the 9 chords. I'm not going to do that. Diatonic 9s, fixed 9s, right? A 9 chord is just one more third, so I'll do a quick version. So on and so forth, right? Nothing really special there. But we can do something else. We can do the diatonic pentatonics, which I will show you now. So yeah, that's a different way. Now those are not pentatonic scales that are all the same. I could do that as well. I could do a fixed major pentatonic all the way through, or I could do the diatonic, like I did the pentatonics that are from the key, or I could do all minor pentatonics, or I could mix them up depending on what function I'm looking for. But again, by ear, figuring out what the right notes are, that's the important part, right? So I just something funny is happening on the browser for Restream, but I think it's fine. I think it's fine. We'll just leave it alone. All right, so those are ways to play scales. I can also do the chords in inversion. I can of course do the chromatic chords. This is what we talked about already. I can fix the triad, or I can do the diatonic triad, but I can also do those in different inversions as well, right? So, for instance, what if I did the 7 chords, but I made the scale all starting on the 7th, right? I would get that instead of see what I mean? So there's still another way to do it. And what I might do is try to keep track of how I'm practicing each key each day, right? So I might try everything. Maybe I'm going to play, well, what would be I could do everything, all the scales up and down, right? If I can't do that, that's where I'm going to start. I can also do all the scales in thirds for sure. And I think I could do fourths, whatever scales I've decided to do. I could do all that every day. And I could probably get in fifths and sixths and sevenths as well, and I'd get better and better at that. And I think I could pull off the diatonic triads of everything. But then I could do diatonic 7s, and I could skip the triads because the triad is in the 7th, right? Although that may not always be wise, but so in other words, don't be too efficient. So there we go. I could do that much every day for a certain number of scales, I think. But I also should think about like how many scales that's going to be. Is it going to be 12? I don't think I can do that like physically. That would take me, an hour, and that would just be scales. And maybe if I'm a jazz musician, for instance, or I play in a brass band where we play a lot of scalar material, then maybe that is a smart way to do it, right? Trying to figure out. Oh, I see. It's telling me things on there that I'm not sure that I want to see. Little problems with my stream that go away after a little while. It probably just means that I'm a little laggy. Sorry about that. So anyway, back to this. Measure what you're going to do. You might instead, if you can play them up and down, you might skip that part. You might just start with thirds. Or if thirds are always easy, well, then don't worry about it, right? Play fourths instead. Play fifths. Play what's hard, right? Don't, like the Clarke book says, don't waste time on those that are easy. Speaking of the Clarke book is a great resource for these same things, right? let's talk about that. So okay, we didn't talk about a couple of different scales, and that's what the rest of this is going to be about. So those are all ways I can play any scale that has 7 notes in it, right? 7 pitches. So that would apply to all of the major scales, obviously, all of the minor scales. We didn't do a minor scale, but it would also apply to all of the major modes, right? All the modes of a major scale, or that's not really how we talk about it, but all of the modes, the natural modes, the church modes, and all the minor modes, right? So that's already 4 groups of 12 that I can apply this kind of technique to. And then other scales are not they're symmetrical instead of, they might not have 7 notes, or at least the 7 notes they have might not line up in a tertian stack the way that we've just discussed. And then it wouldn't be useful to do this with those, right? It's very rare that you're going to actually play any of those in this kind of context anyway. So for those scales, you just want to learn them and practice them often enough to keep them under your fingers. So what would those be? Octatonic, right? There's 2 octatonic scales for every starting, any given starting note, and there are only 4 total, right? Because they loop. Is that even true? Or there 3? Yeah, right. And then I've already played that one, right? So 3. I always have to look it up. But for those, you just practice it on every, if I'm doing an E flat major, then I practice both of the octatonic scales that start on E flat. And that's all, then that's done that day. And then also I'm going to do whole tone. I always do this. I got to work that out. I really wanted to hear D natural in there. Anyway, so yeah, so whole tone, and then hexatonic. Again, by ear. Those are just the same interval back and forth, basically, right? So that's octatonic is whole step, half step, or half step, whole step, and hexatonic is half step, minor third, and whole tone is just whole step, whole step, whole step, right? And whole tone actually is also a hexatonic scale in the sense it has 6 different notes, the way that octatonic has 8 different notes instead of 7. And so septatonic we don't say, but that's because it's the normal scales that we do in the normal order, at least. Okay, so those are some other weird scales. Now we might play other patterns though, right? And in other words, it doesn't have to just be the chords or a single set of intervals, right? That I'm doing fourths or fifths or whatever it is. We're getting a lot done that way, but we can also combine that with some other things. We don't have to just do one. So the book I like for this is the Gecker book. Chris Gecker wrote a great book called Performance Drills. No, what is it called? I should try to get the right name of it. And now I can't find Endurance. That's what it is. Endurance Drills for Performance Skills. And they are really some of them are not about scales, but a lot of them are. And I picked 2 out that I really like that I actually do minor modes on. But this will be a good opportunity to show you that. So here's the major versions of these 2. This is just going to be in C major. I guess I could do it up a minor third. Yeah, sure. Let's keep in E flat. I keep forgetting to turn off my lapel mic, but it doesn't seem to be maxing it out too badly. So anyway, it's scales. You don't need to hear my tone. Anyway, those are the two major versions. So those are two different exercises. Obviously, one is in 4/4 and the other one is in 6/8. I don't know if that's apparent by the way I played it, but those are the major versions, and that's what's in the book. So it's basically a modal plus a triad, in this case always in first inversion, right? Right? But we never go down to the E flat. So this is a really great way instantly to get all your diatonic triads and all of your diatonic modes in the key of whatever you've decided to play in. And he has them written out in all the keys. What I'm playing off right now is this version that I just have written out once in C major, but I'm transposing it. And I prefer this way because, again, I need to be able to do this by the sound, and my fingers need to be able to obey the sound and get the right answer, right? So again, if you haven't been able to play your scales up and down with the proper key signature, keep working on that. But I still say do it by ear, right? We know what a scale sounds like, right? Da, 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 da. I know that sound. I can sing it. I can say da, 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 right? In the same way that my voice doesn't do anything different to transpose. I mean, I don't have to think about transposing on voice, right? I don't want to think about transposing on trumpet either. So but I have to be well versed in all the keys then. And that's really what this is all about, is making your ear do the work and then letting your fingers find that pitch. And then you'll do that faster and faster and faster. That's why I'm not reading it off of a page that says E flat major. I'm reading it off a page that says C, right? That way, at least I know what the pattern looks like in a key, and then I can think about it in another key, right? So now that's not going to be true of the minor modes. I don't think I can transpose these. I mean, I could try, I guess, right? Why not try? Well, because I don't want to play E flat, high E flats all day, but well, that's what I get. So if I look at this, the first minor mode, so what is a minor mode? Well, the modes are, the diatonic modes, right, are like, I'll play C major for a second. That's the ionic mode, Ionian, right? Those are all the same notes as in C major, but that's a D scale, so we call that D Dorian, right? That's E Phrygian. See what I'm saying? So it's a different order, it's a different starting interval that's derived from the key of C major, right? That we're just we're putting it in the same order actually, but we're just taking the first one and putting it at the end, and taking the first one and putting it at the end. And that's one way to play modes. You can also just do all your, the modes are set of intervals now, right? So for instance, Phrygian starts with that half step and then a whole step, and then another whole step, and then a half step, right? So I can do that. I can just say, oh, I'm going to play Dorian, or let's say I'm going to play major, and then Dorian, and then Phrygian. Let's see, Dorian is, yeah. That's not quite right, actually. Now I gotta look. See, that's what I get. I have a different sheet that is for my scales and modes, all written out in C. And so Mixolydian is going to be. Whew. Yeah, I should have started on Lydian. There we go. That's what I was looking for. And then that's Mixolydian. Sorry. Then the Dorian is. Yeah, so I did have it right. And then Aeolian, Phrygian. And I like to practice them that way because then I just add a flat, add a flat, add a flat the whole way through. And I'm looking off the the scale sheet, but I'm letting my fingers decide what notes to play. I just know that this pitch needs to be half a step lower than what I heard before, right? So I'm making my ear do that work, and then my fingers can figure it out. It's only a half step. Everybody can play a half step. So that's the way I'm thinking about it, right? So for the purposes of the video, I am going to play. So the minor modes are, I'm going to play these in C because I have them written out in C, and I'm not ready to hear them yet. I need to play them as written for a little while longer before I feel like I can really hear. And I know this is sort of in violation of what I've just said, but this is where I am struggling, and so I'm not going to try. I'm not going to just abuse myself, and trying to do it up a minor third, but I'll get there. So let's get there together, and then that should be a good stream because I'll be wasted and it'll be pretty exotic to end on. So what is a minor mode? Well, we've got the minor scale. I'm going to play these in C, like I said, because these are a struggle. Then I'll transpose it afterwards. So here's the, and we're going to do harmonic minor because I think that's more challenging. So here's a harmonic minor scale. Right, that's harmonic minor. It's got a raised seventh, but everything else is natural about it, natural minor, right, which is the Aeolian mode if you wanted to go back and look at that. So I've written this out in the minor modes. So here's the first mode minor is just like the regular way, right? All right, that's the same exercise, but now put in minor. That's all. And I can do the other one as well. Oops. I looked away for a second so that I could do it by ear, and then I didn't remember what came next. So now, can I do that? That's just minor. That's a normal minor scale. So we haven't really played E flat minor, but oh, it's got a bad back and forth on it, right? That's fine. So let's see if we can do that. So that was a good example. I knew that was the wrong sound, and I guessed the wrong fingering twice. But I figured it out by the sound. The sound never left my ear. Let's try that again. There we go. So it's this augmented sound there, right? And I could chunk this too, so I can get it really fast. It feels really weird, right, to play fingerings that are just totally unfamiliar. But that's what you could do. So anyway, let me see if I can figure the rest of this out. Boy, you get tired doing this too because when your ear and your fingers don't line up, you immediately start spending a lot more face, and your air slows way down. And I tell my students this all the time: if you hesitate, the whole apparatus stops working well. It still works, it just doesn't work well. So if you're unfamiliar with something, you're gonna have a tough time getting through it. That's what's happening to me right now. But if it happens to you in, let's say, your piece for Allstate or your recital or whatever is coming up for you, it probably means you don't know it well enough and you're not really trusting your fingers and your air, and because you're hesitating a lot. So you need to know it better, and you need to also apply. Maybe you just aren't applying your best fundamentals. Like you feel great your whole warm-up, and you start playing music and you're not so great. That's a lack of application then instead. Even if you know the notes really well, sometimes we just don't play the same way in our warm-up as we do on our pieces, or vice versa. So anyway, that was my cheat to get a little bit more rest. Here we go. Almost. Oh boy. Whew. Yeah, I can feel it now. So, but I got through it, and that's good enough for now because I have more to do, right? So it's good to let yourself off the hook a little bit for now, so that you can move on to some other things, and then you can measure the overall success day to day. And if I really get frustrated with this and I want to practice it, then I can sit down and spend 20 minutes on just this little passage and figure the whole thing out. Then it's good forever, right? So anyway, this is the other one. Oh, sorry. That's so weird to me. That one's going to get me. So there you go. That's just that is just playing the minor E flat minor on in the regular E flat minor key, right? I haven't played a mode really yet. That's the first mode, which we are just not counting. That's like saying major. The second mode is really mean. Some of them are less mean than others. I'm going to skip to the third mode so that we can just kind of get through it, because otherwise I'll never get through it. And the third mode sounds a lot like sort of a weird, not quite Lydian, right? It has a sharp, it's like a major scale with a sharp 6 instead. So I'll play it for you in C for a second, because that way we can get it in our ears, and then we'll transpose it. So to me, it still sounds like harmonic minor, but the way it's written, it just has this one sharp in the key of C, and it's a weird sharp. It's not the right sharp, right? So this is really just a harmonic minor, which is why it looks easy. I don't know what that's going to do for me in E flat. Let's think about it for a second. Well, it's going to be down at a minor third, so it's going to be C minor, C harmonic minor for me, right? Yeah, that's not too bad. And that's sometimes a helpful way to think about it, but it's still not going to sound right. So nope. Yeah, that's right. Oh boy, this is not going to be an easy one. So we kind of got it. My E flats are getting loose now, but so that's the third mode minor. If we jump back to second mode minor, I know I didn't do the. I guess I do it. I like that one because it has augmented at the end, right? Very, very hip, very cool. So I could skip back to second mode minor and just try to do this. It's very, very nasty scale, but this will be a good place to end. And I'm just going to do the second one. I don't want to keep playing all these high E flats not very well at the end of the stream here. So I'm just going to skip to the second exercise because they're both containing the same thing but in a different way, right? That's why I like both of them. So this one in C. There you go. That's the C version. So now can I do that in E flat? No. Not quite right. There's something wrong there. I have to figure that out. But this is my point: is I don't want to just read notes off a page and then memorize that. That's not really knowing my scales, right? If I know it, then you can just say, okay, Gabriel, E major. No problem, right? C sharp major. You got a little wrong note or wrong lip there, but not the wrong fingering. So why can I do that? Well, not because I've memorized C sharp major so hard. It's because I've worked out in all of the major keys how to connect my ear and my fingers just together so that the sound, those are all the same scale to me. They're all major scales. So what I have to work on now is that next step of what about these exotic scales that really are not that exotic. Minor modes are just, we play lots of stuff in minor, right? Lots of pieces are in minor keys. And so if I can't play all the minor modes in these funny patterns, or maybe in the, like we talked about before, in thirds and fourths and fifths and sixths, right? In triads, in seven chords, that kind of thing, then I'm not going to be able to sight read in those keys very well, and I'm certainly not, I'm going to have more fatigue in those keys. And so anyway, that's really what I wanted to talk about ultimately, is that, you know, our scales help us sight read better, more accurately, and these patterns, you can't just play up and down because that's not what music normally does. It does it a lot, and that's why we start there, right? Because up and down it's every note in order, and it's also the thing that we probably do the most out of anything, I guess. But chords, right? We play chords together. If you play the piano, you're playing chords all the time. And even if you play a single line instrument, a lot of times we do play arpeggios, which are just our version of chords. And we don't play them just in root position. We play them in first and second inversions, right? And if it's a 7 chord, in third inversion as well. It's whatever the composer needed us to do, and we're just one small voice. So a lot of times what we do is somewhat odd to us, but overall it makes sense for the piece. And these kinds of exercises help your ear and your fingers get attuned to those sounds in those keys, whatever they may be, those fingering patterns. And then when you see that on the page, you go, yeah, I know what that is. Even if you can't say, oh, right, this is like the Gecker book, but put in fourth mode minor of E flat. No, that's not what I'm saying. I don't care if you can ever tell me what it is. I just want people to be able to do it, right? You see it and you go, oh, I know that I can play that sound, and then you do, right? So that's why I'm working on this now, because I'm not really good at any of my minor keys. I'm not even positive that I can play up and down really as quickly all my minor scales, minor, harmonic minor at least, and melodic minor, and so that's what I want to do, is I want to practice them until I can do all of these things that we've done today in all of the different major scales, minor scales, major modes, and minor modes, right? Then I'll know my scales And I think that it is important enough to spend at least 10 minutes a day on. And it could be, if you're just starting out and you're still learning your scales for the first time, that's the best time to start doing this, because you'll be light years ahead of everybody else when you're, I don't know, let's 3, 4, 5 years in. If you've already been doing this, your scales are going to be so strong, your sight reading is going to be so strong, the way that you learn pieces is going to happen so much faster. And so I wish that I had the patience to do my scales in this way when I was first starting out. And so that's the stream today. Scales, scales, scales to the max is what I said. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you are thinking a little bit differently about scales now. And yeah, thanks for stopping by, and I will see you on Friday.